Okay, hello friends. Welcome to the channel. And we were studying the geography. Okay, and the first class we studied the monsoons, Indian monsoons, the theories of the Indian monsoons. The second class we continued with that and the effect of the monsoon on the vegetation and covered the entire vegetation structure of India, a different type of forests. And in this class we will continue with again forest resources and their distribution. So these will be the topics covered in the class. That the facts about the forest resources of India. Some of the facts which may be some important facts about the prelims or can be used in the answers. Then the significance of the forest, the deforestation causes, the methods of the conservation, and the effect of global warming on the forest resources. Right. So we will try to cover these 5 topics in this class. So without delay, let us start with the first topic. पहला जो topic है that is the fact. Some facts cover करेंगे about the forest resources of India, right? So इसके अंदर सबसे पहले फॉरेस्ट FSR हम डिस्कस करेंगे, फॉरेस्ट सर्वे रिपोर्ट, राइट, स्टेट ऑफ फॉरेस्ट रिपोर्ट, right? So this is the state of first. The fact that we will cover is about the state of forest report, state of forests report, right? So state of forests report 2017 we will discuss. See, according to this report, the forest cover in India was 24.69% of the geographical area of India, right? 24 point, sorry, not 69, 39, 24.39. This is a biennial report, हर 2 साल में एक बार पब्लिश की जाती है, and the publisher is the Forest Survey of India. Forest Survey of India, which is under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, publishes the state of forest report every 2 years. And according to 2017 report, the forest cover of India was 24.39%, and this include the trees plus both forests, right? Right, the open trees as well as forest. Now this 24.39% was something like 2.24.16%. This was the forest cover in 2015 report, which was state of forest report 2015, 24.16. So there was increase in the forest cover, but this increase was because of afforestation activities, that is in this part on the trees which were planted along the, let's say, roads, on the canals sides, right? But this part, more or less, than dense forest, they kept on decreasing in India. So this was the state of forest report, the first. Now according to this report, the highest forest cover in India is in MP. So MP has the highest forest cover in India, followed by Arunachal Pradesh, right? This is followed by Chhattisgarh. And Chhattisgarh is followed by Odisha, right? So this is the state of the forest in India. That is how the forest, the MP has the highest forest cover. उसके बाद अरुणाचल प्रदेश में, third is the Chhattisgarh, and then is Odisha. So if any sequence of this kind is given, so इस टाइप का कोई भी आंसर किया जा सकता है, right, on the basis of sequence की किस स्टेट के अंदर फॉरेस्ट कवर सबसे ज्यादा. So MP has the highest. Now when it comes to the least forest cover in among the states, okay, excluding the union territories, the least forest cover is in Haryana, right? And this is followed by Punjab, and then you have Goa, and followed by Sikkim, then followed by Goa, and after that Sikkim. So this is the sequence, that is the least forest cover, that is Haryana has the least forest, then Punjab, and then Goa, and then Sikkim. Okay, so this is the third fact about the state of forest report. Now some other fact about the forests of India, some other facts with regard to the forest of India. See, the we covered different types of forest yesterday. So सबसे पहले हम ट्रॉपिकल ड्राई इन फॉरेस्ट का इंडिया के अंदर कितना परसेंटेज एरिया है उसके हिसाब से हम फॉरेस्ट को देखते हैं एक बार. ट्रॉपिकल ड्राई deciduous forest. Tropical dry deciduous forest. Tropical dry deciduous forests, they cover close to something 41.87% area of India. So tropical dry deciduous forest 41.87% of India. Okay, this much of India, right? Next is the tropical moist deciduous forests. Moist deciduous forest. Most deciduous forests have 19% of India's area. 19%, right? Next is the semi-evergreen forest that we did. Tropical semi-evergreen forest. Semi-evergreen forest. Semi-evergreen forests have 13.79% of India's geographical area. Then the moist or the wet evergreen forest that we did. Wet evergreen forest. Wet evergreen forests have close to 4.12% of India's geographical area. Okay. And then here is the subtropical pine forest. Subtropical pine forests. Subtropical pine forests have 2.63% of India's geographical area. So this is the representation of the different type of forest in India, how they are distributed. Okay. So the next fact is the some other important facts like the teak forest. The density of teak forest in India is highest in Madhya Pradesh in MP. Right. The next is mulberry forest. Mulberry forest. The density or highest mulberry forest they are in Karnataka. Karnataka. That's why Karnataka is the largest producer of mulberry silk. Okay. Mulberry type of silk. Karnataka is the largest producer of this type of silk. So take mulberry. Then comes the sandalwood. Right. The sandalwood forest. Again, the highest concentration of these forests again in Karnataka. And after Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. Right. So this is about the sandalwood forest. Then come the lac forest. Lac forest. Their highest concentration is in Jharkhand. Okay. The tendu trees. If you ask the tendu trees are found highest concentration of these trees again in Madhya Pradesh, and that's why the Madhya Pradesh is the largest producer of BDs because these tendu trees, their leaves are used for wrapping around in the BDs, right? When about the coconut trees, coconut they are their highest concentration is in Kerala, right? So these are the some facts about some important trees and important forests, right? So this was the first topic. So we have covered the first some facts about the forest resources, right? Then we will start with the second one, that is the significance of forests. Significance of forests. Okay, significance of forest resources. Okay. The first significance is the economic significance of forests. Economic significance. Right. So So in economic significance, what we can write is that the forests are renewable sources which provide a wide variety of services, right? Forests provide a wide variety of goods and services. Forests provide wide variety of goods and services, right? These includes wood, okay, rubber, latex, steroids, and many other medicinal ingredients. Okay, so this is the economic significance of the forest resources, right? Then come the second part, the second significance that we can write, that is the ecological significance, the most important one. Ecological significance. And ecological significance can be divided into the three or four types, like sporting services which the forests provide. Sporting services, right? For example, in the soil formation, the forest or the trees help. Sporting services, right? Regulating services, regulating services which the forest provide, right? Regulating the hydrological cycle, the carbon cycle, all these things. Then we can also write about the provisioning services which the forest resources provide, right? Like fuel, food, food, okay, fodder for the animals. All these we can write in the provisioning services. And the last one is the aesthetic services, right? For example, the cultural services, tourism, educational services, right? Recreational, we can all these write in the aesthetic services, right? So this is the second, that is after economic, the ecological significance of the forest resources that we can write. So this is the first part, that is the significance of the forest resources, right? Now comes the third part, the causes of the deforestation and its causes. See, if you see the present trend, the if you see the first instance of the deforestation started with the first agriculture revolution, agriculture revolution first agricultural revolution. And this agriculture revolution started when the humans settled around 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago. Okay. When the humans from hunter gatherers, they adopted the settled agriculture. And it was not that kind of settled agriculture. Basically, it was type, slash and burn type of agriculture. And in slash and burn type of agriculture, they used to burn the one patch of land, remove the forest, burn that patch of land, and do the cropping on that patch of land. When the fertility of that particular land got degraded or reduced, then they used to shift to the other patch of the land, again clear the forest on that land, cropping is done on that land, and after a few years then that is also vacated and moving to the. So this led to the first kind of deforestation during the first agriculture revolution, right? After that, during the colonial time, the most rapacious degradation of forest was witnessed, right? Because of the industrial revolution and expansion of factories. Industrial revolution, the first industrial revolution, right? First industrial revolution. This led to the expansion of the colonies, right, and their resources were exploited in the particularly the tropical region. So the tropical forest witnessed the most exploitation during these times, the colonial times. So this was the second period. Now if you see in the present time, in the present time you can divide it the countries into two parts, right? One is the developed countries. The developed countries, particularly the European countries, have witnessed increase in the forest cover. These have witnessed increase in forest cover in 21st century. In 21st century, and the main reason for this increase in the forest cover in 21st century in developed country is the afforestation program and the reforestation program. Reforestation program, right? And when you see in the developing countries, because of their aspiration in developing countries to become developed, they have witnessed rapid exploitation of forest resources, rapid exploitation of forest resources in developing countries. So therefore, and most of the developing countries are in the tropics. Okay, they are in tropics, and the tropics are characterized by the dense forest, by the dense hardwood forest, hardwood forest. And these dense hardwood forests, their wood is in high demand for the various construction activities, right? For example, the teak and the sal forest. For example, let me give about the example of the developing country, particularly the India. The teak and the sal forest, teak and sal forest. These forests witnessed the most exploitation during British time. Okay, during in 18th and 19th century, 18th and 19th century. And when the Britishers found that in the sal and the teak forest of India are getting exploited, then they started the new expedition, and that was the colonization of Myanmar. Okay, Burma. And the Burma after that became their prime source for the sal and the teak forest. So these forests, for example, teak and the sal forest provide the hardwood, and this hardwood was used as the sleepers, okay, sleeper in the rail tracks. So this was the main difference between the developing and developed countries when it comes to the deforestation. Now, if you see the main causes of the deforestation, there are many causes which you can write, both direct and indirect. Let us write both some direct and some, you can say, some indirect causes. Right, indirect causes you can write in the two heads in this thing. For example, in indirect causes, what you can say, the population growth is the main reason because of which the expanding population is encroaching upon the forest resources. So forests are being exploited because of this. Then the land use change, you can also write for the land use change, right? Because of the expanding population, need of new cities, and growing urbanization, okay, the the encroachment upon the forest resources is being done, okay, because of this is the land use change. Then you can also see about this, let us say, the physical condition of the land, physical condition. Now if, let us say, there are the two types of land. If one land is more sloping, the forest are on the more sloping land, and other land is the less sloping and the forest on the less sloping land. So this type of forest where the land slope is very steep, these are less susceptible to the exploitation because the less economic activities can be carried out on these forest. लेकिन जो भी फॉरेस्ट ऑन द फ्लैट लैंड पे होगा वहां पर एक्सप्लॉयटेशन के चांसेस ज्यादा होंगे बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स ससेप्टेबिलिटी एंड there are many activities which can be carried out on such lands. Okay. Then in the same indirect causes, you can also mention other factor like the government policies. You can mention about the government policies, right? Government policies, let us government policy and may encourage the development of a highway through a forest, okay, forest reserve, and that will divide the forest reserve in two parts, leading to increase in the edge effect and the exploitation and the degradation of the forest, right? This is the another cause, the indirect cause जिसके अंदर आप mention कर सकते हो. The another, the indirect cause that you can mention is the increase in the consumerist societies, consumerist societies. So as the society become more materialistic and the consumerist, the demand for forest resources kept on increasing. This again led to the exploitation of forest resources. So these factors, okay, also the climate change and the global warming. This can also be mentioned as another additional factor for the degradation of the forest. Right, greenhouse gas is having the serious effect. Then infestation and the pest break out in the forests. So all this leads to the forest death of the forest. So there is a new term, that is the death of forest death. That is the forest death. Okay, there are many reasons, but it was first witnessed in the Europe, leading to 70% death of the pine forest in the Europe in 1986. Pine forest in 1986. So this was because of many factors, but one factor was definitely the global warming. Global warming, and this global warming led to increase in other factors, which are, okay, infestation, right, flooding, okay, invasive alien species, okay, invasive alien species, invasive alien species. So all these factors led to the forest death. So global warming is definitely one another indirect factor that we can definitely mention here. So global warming, population growth, okay, land use changes, physical condition of a forest, government policies, consumerist societies, and the global warming. So this can be the indirect reason. Now when you see the direct causes of the forest death or the deforestation, in the direct causes, you can mention many factors. Number one, like you can mention about the logging, okay, increasing demand of the wood, increasing demand of wood, okay. You can mention about the demand for fuel wood, okay, increasing demand for fuel wood in developing countries, in developed and developing countries both, more particularly in developing countries, okay. You can mention about the shifting cultivation, okay, which is practiced in the tribal communities, in the tribal communities, and the most of the tribal communities lives in where, in the tropical region forests, okay. So this is the, you can see these are the, and along with this you can also mention about the forest fires, okay, forest fires, okay. An example is the, can be given of the California forest, California forest fires, okay. Then you can mention about the pests and disease in the forest, Okay, because of the climate change and the global warming, the incidence of the pests and disease in the forest have increased. Okay, leading to high impact on the forest. So this can be mentioned as the direct causes of the deforestation: logging, fuel wood demand, shifting cultivation, forest fires, and the pest and disease. Right. So this was the deforestation. Next is the after deforestation we should see the methods of conservation. Right. Methods of conservation. So in the methods of the conservation, the first one is the reforestation. See, reforestation is also a very important activity where the forests are grown on the same land where they were present earlier. Because of, say, let us say in the South Korea during civil war, 80% of the forest were damaged. 80% of the forest were damaged in the South Korea, but they were reforested after the armistice was achieved between the South Korea and North Korea. So this is an important example of the reforestation. On the same land we are reforesting. Similarly, after the World War II, forests were reforested in Japan. In Japan after World War II. But the reforestation, if you are engaging in the monoculture, okay, if you are doing reforestation through monoculture, the same species, for example, let us say eucalyptus is grown at massive scale in India, and the eucalyptus is water intensive plant. So this eucalyptus has reduced the water level and damaged, instead of increasing the biodiversity, has damaged the biodiversity and the many aspects of biodiversity. Okay, and this monoculture also increases the susceptibility of the forest and the biodiversity to the pests and other form of the biological threats. So monoculture is not a good practice, but reforestation with multiple species is a good practice. So this was the reforestation, the first method of the conservation. Okay, the next method of the conservation is the afforestation. See, in afforestation, the trees are grown not on the land on which they were present earlier, but so for example, this was the forest area. Okay, this was the forest area, and some industry was established in this location. Some industry was established on this location, and some forest patch was covered. So this forest patch would be re-established in the adjoining area and wherever the suitable land is found. So this is the afforestation activity. And in India, the Compensatory Afforestation Management Fund Act, CAMPA, Management and Planning Authority. This authority, Compensatory Afforestation Management and Planning Authority, is responsible for afforestation activities. And there are two types of fund, which are, one is the State Compensatory Afforestation Fund, one is the State Compensatory Afforestation Fund, another is the Central Compensatory Afforestation Fund. And these two funds are used for the afforestation activities, these two funds, right? So this is the afforestation activity to recover the damaged forest. Okay, so this was the second method in which the forest can be conserved. The third method is the forestry, different type of forestry practices. So in forestry practices हम तीन तरीके की forestry practices use कर सकते हैं basically. Number one is the protection forestry. Protection forestry. Protection forestry is used in the wildlife sanctuaries, national park, biosphere reserves, because in the protection forestry what we assume that the forest and associated biodiversity is very vulnerable, so they have to be protected with the extreme care, right? Extreme care has to be given okay, and they have not to be exploited in any form. So this is the protection type of protection forestry. The second type of forestry that we can practice is the production forestry, right? Production forestry. In production forestry, we use the forest products in sustainable manner. Forest products in sustainable manner. For example, by the time we can use the fuel wood in sustainable manner, we will use. By the time we can use the rubber in the sustainable manner from the trees, we can use. By the time we will use, by the time we can use the latex in a sustainable manner, we will use. So this is the production forestry, and the production forestry is more sustainable than the other type of forestry practices, right? And it also helps in the livelihood of the local communities. So this is the production forestry, the second type of the practice, the forestry practice that we can use, right? The third type of forestry that is there is the community forestry, right? In community forestry, the community, okay, which is living in the adjacent land of the forest, right? They will protect the forest. Okay, community will protect the forest resources, and this same community will also use the forest resources in a in a productive manner. So these are the three types of the forestry practices, that the protection forestry, production forestry, and the community forestry. Okay, the next method that we can use is the social forestry. In social forestry, see, for example, this is the forest land, this is a forest area and has been declared as the biosphere reserve or the national park, right? And the community which was living in adjacent to this, their living rights have been affected because of this now, because they cannot use the forest products now, right? Because of the declaration of this part or this patch as the biosphere reserve. Now what can be done is, the adjacent land in the government or the public land, the forest can be grown, okay, and these forest can be grown for the economic purposes, economic purposes of this community which was living in adjacent. So economic purpose of this community will be served. Along with this, biodiversity would be enriched, biodiversity would enhance in this region, in adjacent region. So this is a social forestry in which the public land or the adjacent land to the biosphere reserve will be used to grow the forest, and these forests can be used for economic exploitation by the community whose rights have been affected, right? So this is the social forestry, right? Next is the fifth method of conservation that can be used is the agroforestry. Agroforestry, see, agroforestry is again a land use term, a different type of land use, a different type of land use in which a particular patch of land will not only be used for cropping, but in addition to cropping, this will be used for tree plantation, trees, plus in addition to cropping and trees, this will be used for the animal husbandry also, animal husbandry, right? Now when you use the cropping and tree, this is called as the silviculture. Agri silvicultural forestry, silvicultural forestry, right? And when you use the cropping trees and animal husbandry, then it is called as the agri silvipastoral agroforestry, right? So it is a different type of land use in which the cropping, trees and animal husbandry simultaneously used on the same land, right? And there are multiple benefits of agroforestry. So if you see the benefits of agroforestry, then it would be more understood, right? Number one, like for example, if you're using the same land for cropping as well as tree plantation, then you increase the biodiversity in the area. Okay, the number of species of the, whether they are the soil biodiversity or the tree biodiversity, the birds, the bees and the other species which can help in pollination, they will increase, so biodiversity will increase. Second, the sustainability will increase. Okay, in the sense that now the forest along with the crops, the trees products can be used to sell in the market, so sustainability plus income of the local community will increase here in this income of local communities, right? So this will also increase in this. Number 3 is the control of erosion method, erosion. So whether it is the water erosion, okay, whether it is the wind erosion, okay, or the water erosion because of the rain or the rain falls, or the water erosion, they can be controlled by the tree plantation along with the crops, right? Tree plantation along with the crops. So this is the third benefit of this thing, the agroforestry, right? Erosion, sustainability, biodiversity. The the other benefit is the control of pollution. All right, the tree provides additional source for the carbon sequestration, so the pollution can be controlled. And as I told here, the additional source of income, so diversification, this leads to diversification of income source, right? So these are the benefits of the agroforestry technique. So these are the 5 methods that we did for the conservation of forest, right? So this was the next topic. The last topic of this class is the effect of global warming on the forest resources. Global warming on forest. So see what happened in the global warming, the temperature of the globe will increase somewhere from 2 degree to 3 degree centigrade, and this temperature increase would lead to what happening, the increase in the rainfall, right? So there would be increase in the rainfall intensity, right? And this rainfall intensity would lead to, and this temp along with this temperature, increasing the susceptibility of forest, susceptibility of forest. Now there are the susceptibility of different type of forest is different to the climate change. For example, the thorn forest, thorn forest, they are most susceptible. They are most susceptible. Okay, and the least susceptible are the evergreen forest. So evergreen forests are, they are least susceptible to the climate change. Right, but in case of the temperate forest, more particularly the pine forest, they are also the most susceptible forest, right? And the transition of the forest will happen something like that. The dry deciduous forest because of the more rainfall, they will transit to the most deciduous forest. Most deciduous forest. And the most deciduous forest will transit to the evergreen forests. Right. And evergreen forests are the least susceptible. Most the tropical evergreen forest, they are least susceptible. So, but see, whatever effect that we did, okay, the transitory or the most susceptible, less susceptible type of forest, these we are taking effect of just the increase in the temperature increase in the rainfall intensity, increase in the rainfall intensity. Okay, along with this increase in the evapotranspiration. Okay, in this we are not taking into effect the anthropogenic effect. And anthropogenic effect are the most seen effect, right? The For example, the degradation of forest because of the exploitation, increase in the population, or the economic exploitation of forest. So anthropogenic effect are we are not taking. So if we are take this anthropogenic effect also in factor, then the effect on the forest resources is more than what we have seen. So what we see this, the thorny forest, they are more susceptible than evergreen, they least susceptible. Temperate forest, the pine forest will also see the degradation, the okay, more infestation and the disease will break out in the forest because of the climate change, the temp this thing. Okay, and the margin, the transfer of the forest because of the increasing rainfall and the evapotranspiration, the dry deciduous forest will transit to the most deciduous forest, and the most deciduous forest will transit to the evergreen forest, right? So this will be the transition. And okay, so this is the last topic of this class. Okay, and we have almost completed the forest resources, okay, in very detail. And in the next class we will start with the fresh topic. Okay, more particular, again we are taking the topics of Indian geography, right? In the Indian geography, the next topic that we will take is about the soils of India. Soils of India, right? And it is again a broad topic, because if soils of India are understood, only then we can more particularly appreciate the topics of the land degradation, desertification of the land. The question was asked this year in the mains on desertification. Okay, then we can appreciate the topics like degradation of land. Okay, degradation of land, deforestation of land. Okay, chambal ravines. Okay, and the degradation in Himalayan forest. So all these topics can be understood after understanding the soils of India. So the next class topic will be the soils of India, and after that we will start covering the applied part of the soils of India, these all topics. So this was the last of this class. So stay tuned. So we'll meet in the next class. So, and if you like the video, subscribe the channel. So thank you.